Greetings folks! In my last video, I showed you how I took this amazing STL from the guys at Wicked, butchered it in Blender so that I could print it 100% FDM, only to go and smother it in resin anyway. But to be honest, it looked pretty good. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I completely ruined my first go at the paint job.
You never were that smart.
Shut your arse, Arnie, because the second paint job is a million times better. Well, I think so anyway. And I'm going to show you how I did it, step by step, so let's get to it.
Showtime, kid.
So, to briefly show you what I didn't like about the first attempt, I tried to hand paint it, not airbrush it, because it's quite a textured STL from the guys at Wicked. The Predator head itself, the model and whatever they use in the film, is quite flat and all the details are painted, but this STL is really quite bumpy. And I thought, well, I'll just play to the strengths and just paint on all the ridges and stuff, but it just looked too painted, you know, just too fake. So as a bit of a Hail Mary, I decided to just chuck a load of sepia tint all over it, and it just looked awful, especially when I tried to sort of dab some of it away, and as you can see, it removed some of the paint I'd already laid down on the black markings on the top of the head. And I went to bed that night feeling pretty despondent. And if you are curious about the process that I failed at, for this one I will be putting it together on a members only video. And I strongly suspect that me coating it in so much sepia tone that looked, sepia wash that looked awful, was my own subconscious purposely ruining it so that I'd have to respray it. And I'm glad I did. So I came back to it the next day and I put a new fresh coat of skeletal bone from the Army Painter Air Mega Set. There is a link in the description for all the equipment I use. That's the Harder and Steenbeck Evolution 2024 airbrush, which is awesome. So usual disclosure for affiliate links, I get a little bit of a kickback. I haven't actually sold anything, and the partnership is about to pull my membership of it because, yeah. But so if you do want anything that you see in here, so yeah, help me out, that'd be cool. It's actually quite a good thing to use like one whole set, because I haven't got that many paints anyway. I've only been doing this about 5 months, so I'm not very experienced with this kind of thing. So this is my first Predator head, so obviously I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to learn and get better as I go along, and that's what this channel is all about. It's about somebody new picking it up and having a go and see how I get on. But sorry, as I was saying, it's good to using just one set, because I went onto ChatGPT and I said, I've got this the Army Painter Mega Set. I want to paint a Jungle Hunter Predator. What colours can I use out of the set? What's going to be, you know, the best match? And he gave me this whole step-by-step approach. It's actually really handy, so try it out, guys. I needed the help and advice because this isn't the first project that I've ruined and had to repaint. I don't know if any of you guys who've been to the channel before remember my T800 video.
Trying to forget it. Come on.
How terribly hilarious of you, Arnie. I seem to remember you featured in that video too, so I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern, mate. Anyway, back on topic. Yes, so fresh lick of base coat, sorry, I should say. Feeling a lot better, starting from scratch and learning from the mistakes that I made last time. I'm going to do it pretty much fully airbrush as well, so it should look a lot cleaner. And just as I'm saying to you that I follow a guide from ChatGPT, I almost instantly decided to go off-piste.
What the hell's he doing?
So, Dylan, as I'm sure that you'll agree, because I know how much you like to airbrush, the skeletal bone was looking a little bit flat, so went over it with a bit of bleach bone just to break it up in all the high, to add that sort of bit of highlights in the high spots and just to add a bit more variety from the get-go. I do, however, get back on the straight and narrow rather quickly with a dusting of Imp Yellow, the next colour in the ChatGPT guide. On the subject of AI, actually, I am proud to announce that, just in case you were wondering, that nothing about my channel is AI. None of the scripts, there isn't many scripts, to be honest. I just wing it, and that's why I leave in all the ums and the ahs. So yes, I'm proud to not be artificially intelligent, or actually intelligent in any shape or form. I mean, if I was using AI for a voice, why the hell would I choose a shite stick accent? So the Imp Yellow is just to sort of give a bit of a transition sort of zone between the sort of dark brown areas around the edges of his forehead and his sort of cowl, which goes really dark browns and blacks, and give a sort of blend into the very pale skin tones in the middle of his head and his mouth. So next on the list is Incursion Orange. We're just building up the the darker, richer oranges to black to browns and then to blacks of the edge of his head and cowling. Is it the cowl when it's on the head, or is it a cowl on the neck? I don't know. Anyway, you know, the bumpy bits where his dreadlocks are, and blending that into the paler tones in the middle of his forehead and his mouth, using a sort of the sketchy technique that are used on the Vecna video, if you've seen that, where you're not using just one colour to just like blanket one area. It looks too flat, too uninteresting, which is the problem that I had with the first take of this, and the whole reason of me doing a repaint. It's kind of like, you know, when like a kid scribbles all over your favourite sofa. I mean, that kind of technique. Well, is it a technique? I suppose it is, really. We've all been there. Sorry, Mum.
What the fuck?
Okay, sorry, Blaine. I've gone off on a tangent there. Right, where were we? Right, yeah. Spraying incursion orange in a haphazard way. Check, done. And then here it is towards the end of that process. And that pass, as you can see, it's really starting to sort of come together. It's looking nice. Next is a mix of incursion orange and bulwark brown. I think it's 50-50. As you can see here, it makes a bit of sort of a burnt umber sort of colour. And don't worry if you haven't got this, obviously you can use your own colours and your own mixes. There's no exact science to doing this. Everybody's going to have their own take on it, and you know, it's their own look and feel and their own style. So yeah, just do whatever feels natural and whatever like you kind of thinks good. Because as I've proven, if it all goes tits up, you can just start again. Right, so here we go with that sort of burnt umber colour. As the colours get darker, tend to sort of get more into the shadows, into the recesses and into the gaps and stuff like that. And after completing a pass of that, it ends up looking a little bit something like this. Now we've built up the nice warm yellow sort of tones. It's now to get serious with the leather brown. And this is where we start adding in the sort of giraffe skin pattern that you'll see on the film reference. Right at the top of his forehead there, over the lighter skin tones, is that sort of brown giraffe pattern. Now you may have noticed on the film reference there that his skin is quite sort of smooth in terms of texture, where this amazing STL from the guys at Wicked have actually sort of modelled this colour pigment that's in the predator's skin as 3D protrusions on the sort of surface of the model. So it's kind of slightly different process to sort of paint the giraffe pattern than you would be doing if it was a smoother model, because you've got to try and like actually sort of hit the already existing 3D bobbles that's on the STL. So I kind of do a mix of both, like painting the high points of the physical undulations with 2D sort of bits of giraffe pattern, as you'll sort of see here. Yep, so after having a pass of that, as you can see, the splodges are starting to appear now, just building up that texture. Now we get super serious with the matte black. This is where it's really going to start looking very Predator-esque. And this is where you really focus on the recesses, just around the edges of the part of his head where his dreadlocks are coming out of, because that's like really quite black around there. Again, just sort of splodgy, scribbly, breaking up that umber, that brown colour that's dominating that area, because it is really quite heavily black and dark around there. And try and be mindful not to go like crazy black and just like ruin all the hard work that we've already done. So it's kind of a good idea to go in steady steps to make sure that you're not going too far in one big hit. And then add in those distinctive black giraffe pattern. Again, this is where it's kind of difficult to hit the actual sort of raised areas of the model, as I was describing earlier. If that was smooth, it'd be a lot easier to just sort of paint in your own giraffe texture. But it's a little bit messy at the minute. My aim's not particularly great, and it's overspraying a little bit. I've got the pressure down to about 10, and just trying to hardly pulling back on the trigger. But I'm not that particularly precise with it at the minute. Still getting used to using the airbrush and getting that experience. But yeah, it all comes together good in the end. And after my first attempt at doing the black giraffe pattern, I go back and add even more shadow to the bits around the edge of his head. And it looks a little bit something like this. And that's where I got to after the course of one day catching up. Not too bad. Certainly feeling a lot better about it. So I wanted to take a few work in progress pictures. So I sprayed it with a coating of gloss spray because, you know, he is the predator from the film is quite slimy. And also it means that I can start adding in some sort of details with the, you know, the extra, all the little freckles he's got. And if I get any wrong, because it's on top of the gloss, I can easily wipe it off. And the day's painting from the day before is protected under gloss, so hopefully can't ruin it. Then just using some black speed paint, just very easily paint in the very black reptilian eye sockets. And also across the bridge of his nose, or he hasn't really got a nose, has he? Whatever that is.
That damn nose of his. I swear.
And you can keep your nose out of it, Mac. Right, blood red speed paint to start off the mouth and inside of the cheeks. Yeah, so literally just chucking it in there just to get the first sort of base red colours in there. It's going to be built upon, so this is just using the characteristics of speed paint to just be speedy. And to demonstrate the point I was making earlier about doing it over gloss is that if it's okay to be heavy-handed at first, because you can come back in with the a Q-tip, as you call them in America, or cotton bud, as you call them here, and just sort of wipe it away, just wet it a little bit, and just wipe off some of the still wet paint that's on top of the gloss. Comes off pretty easy, so you could just tone it back down a bit. So the red's a bit too red at the minute, so I decided to bring back a little bit of the skeleton bone flesh tones into the thicker parts of the inner cheek. And I'm trying not to be too heavy-handed with the brush and just do like big obliterating brush strokes to be, again, like too overpowering. So I'm just sort of dabbing it onto the high spots, and it's in the sort of speckly fashion. Then try to hand paint a few sort of underlying veins with a very thin brush here. And as you can see, they look a bit clumsy and heavy, so I'll go back over with the original skeleton bone. A bit of a wash, a really thin down sort of glaze of it to sort of calm it all down. And then I go in and sort of paint on the raised, the veins on that side of the mouth are actually raised on the SDL itself, so we'll paint it over the tops of that. Now this next sequence is probably going to give me PTSD because I had to repaint the eyes, oh my god, about 10 times. It was hard work. I think because they're so big that if they're not perfectly round, and it's, you know, quite a big round perfect circle you've got to get for the iris, which is incursion yellow, which is just off frame there, but it's the same yellow that I used at the beginning. If you're slightly off with it and you've got the iris, and then you've got the pupil, and then you've got the little dot of white for the specular highlight, if suddenly some of it becomes too big or too square or just not round enough, it's back to the drawing board. And oh my god, did I have to go back to the drawing board a few times. So I'm starting out with pretty thin down the incursion yellow to just build it up over a few coats, just to help hopefully make it come off the brush a little easier, a little bit more controllable. Back for the second coat, and to be honest, at this point I'm thinking this is looking pretty, nice and round. I'm liking this. And of course, not only is it massively anxiety inducing, you've got to do it twice. Great. But on this first go, I thought that was pretty good. That looks pretty round to me. Not bad coverage. And then I pick up the lava orange to add a little bit of orange hue around the outside. I decided at this point as well that the outer part of the eye is too dark, so I add a little bit of grey speckling. And at this point, and after a little bit of a tidy up, I think it's about time to put the pupil in, and this is where it starts to go badly wrong.
You lose it here, you're in a world of hurt.
And don't I just know it, because getting it wrong there is obviously not very circular, and it's already rather big, so as soon as you try to sort of make it rounder, it just goes huge, and it's really hard to try and do it as well to make it without getting in the way of the camera, and yeah, just a bit of a nightmare. In my attempts to try and fix it, it just goes really out of shape and huge, and look at that. massive error on the right hand side there. It's like, okay, this ain't gonna work. So here I come with the Q-tip again to wipe it all off and just kind of start again, kind of try and salvage what I've got. And after tidying up the iris a little bit, I decide to give the pupil another go. I get the left one okay, but I'd really muck up the right one this time and have to get Mr. Q-tip out again. So I fixed the iris again and tried the pupil. It's going really big again, really annoying. So I tried to make the left-hand side one bigger and make that mistake again, and just, you know what, I'll just give up. No, I've had enough at this point and really just want to give up.
Try it again. Please.
Oh, I did, Dylan, and believe me, I did it a few times off camera, too embarrassed to try on camera, and still was mucking it up. So just went and decided to paint the whole eye completely from scratch again, starting off with this grey. Then I stupidly gave it a wash of blue speed paint, and it was just like crazy blue.
What in God's name?
Yeah, but then back out with a Q-tip to wipe most of it off, redo another iris, managed to get the best pupil I've done so far, and finally add in that all-important specular highlight dot. The previous round of trying to do the eye when I got really well, and then the specular dot just went odd when I put it on there. It wasn't round, it was like just slipped and it just ruined it. That was a hard one to take.
One down.
And thank God that I managed to do the one on the right pretty decently as well. So yeah, that was the eyes done for now. And so finally I could get onto something different, namely the teeth. So using saran wrap, I think you call it in America, or cling film we call it here, just poke the teeth through using the skeleton and get the skeletal bone paint from before. Just give the teeth a good coating of that. And I'm sorry, I can't remember what this next one was, but I do think it's the light. Well, it's just a light brown, sort of going up to about halfway down to the base of each tooth, and then finish with an oak brown right into the base and along some of the darker, the sort of channels of the recesses of the tooth. I actually took off the cling film because it was doing me head in, but yeah, that's looking pretty nice. After looking back at the reference, I had a little bit more of the lighter skin tone across the ridge there between the black in the center and the edge, and then I go with the brown color and hand paint, airbrush paint these reddy brown giraffe patterns again that have sort of got a bit obliterated. And then repaint some of the black freckles with the airbrush that had got slightly obscured when I went over it. I re-went over some of the side bits with a bit of the lighter skin tone again, just because it got a bit too yellow. Then after another coat of varnish, of clear coat I should say, to make it look more realistic and slimy, I decide that the irises are far too small compared to the reference images, and this, I don't know why I'm revisiting the eyes. I could have just let them be, because I did not want to ruin what I'd already got. But I thought if I just extend it, maybe it'd be okay. So yeah, I tried to get the iris a lot bigger. But to cut a frankly already too long story short, with a bit of careful patience and a bit of sort of glazing, because I wanted to extend a bit of the orange tones into the blue-grey part of his eye as well. I think it looked pretty good, and if you look back on the references that you might see online, I can't be bothered to go and find a picture of it, but you'll see the actor that played the Predator has his contact lenses are almost full of iris, and there's not much of the rest of his eye showing, so that's why I felt I had to make the iris a lot bigger. So the final thing you always should do with eyes is add on some clear gloss. I was just doing the whole eye here. Some people just do the iris and put satin on the rest of the eye, but you know what, I can't be bothered to do that. It just really makes it look like it's alive and not dry and dead. And so finally, after what seems like an absolute eon, I'm on to doing the final thing, which is the rings around his dreadlocks. So I'm using the Tinny Tin and Brassy Brass, sorry, from Vallejo. No, is that Vallejo? Yeah, it is Vallejo. Just dry brushing, and I'm not even going to cover the black, because even the darker brass that I'm going to use is just going to be like specular highlights of gold, of sort of like brassy gold, and just leave, when they sort of go round into the shadow, just going to leave it sort of black, because it's just going to look a little bit more like, you know, quite realistic actually, because metallic shadows can be really dark at times. So there we go. Then it's just a case of adding the last little bit of highlight with the brighter metal just on the key parts that are facing the viewer. So just before I show you the final thing, if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, before we see it in all its glory, if you'd like to subscribe or comment or drop a like or even join the memberships, got some cool stuff happening, going to be happening in the future for members. So yeah, thanks for any support, would be greatly appreciated. Awesome. So I know this is just the head video. We will be doing I will be doing a video of the full body paint up soon enough.
Where the hell is his body? There's no sign of it.
Well, here it is. It's not painted yet. I'm afraid it will be. It's quite a big undertaking in itself. So yeah, that's the video, guys. Hopefully you taken some tips of what to do or what not to do out of it, and you enjoyed it. If you're still here, I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll catch you again next time.